jump in. So we have today, we're going in and you guys are working on this with Scott.
I am so excited, you guys. Oh, how the tables have turned. Instead of stumping the broker today, the broker's trying to stump you. So I hope everyone listened to Jessica and brought a copy of the rep C or something to pull up the rep C with, because I think you're going to need it. If you score 100% on this, you get to spin the wheel. Or if you don't want to spin the wheel, you can get a free platinum car wash at Tag and Go. So there are prizes for this. Everyone scan the QR code. That's going to get you into the quiz. It's just a Google form, but that'll track your score. I need to see 100% score if you're going to get a prize. Yeah, pull it up. And then if possible, pull up the rep C. It's open book. It's open book. So I'll wait just a minute for everyone to get into it here. There will be one makeup question at the end. So there's 13 questions. You can miss one of them. And there's a makeup question at the end, which better be an easy answer for all of you based on previous broker moments and conversations that we've had. So I don't see any phones pointed. Anyone need more time to scan? We good? Okay. Practice question. A buyer goes under contract to purchase a new home on Monday and delivers earnest money to the brokerage on Friday before 5 p.m. By what day must the brokerage deposit the earnest money into the trust account? A, same day, Friday. B, the following Tuesday. Or C, next business day. I do not want you to shout out the answer. But it is the practice question. So for practice, don't shout out the answer. Okay, everyone got their answers in? And the answer is B, the following Tuesday is the correct answer. Correct. That's correct. So there's actually 2 sets of 4 calendar days in what I call section 0 of the rep C here. I don't know why it's not labeled. It drives me nuts, actually, because I'm like in section. But anyway, yeah, so there's 2 sets of 4 calendar days, right? There's the first delivery, which is your buyer hands you the check, is the first 4 calendar days. You're a representative of the brokerage in that case. So you get the check from your buyer in the first 4 calendar days. Then we, the brokerage, have another 4 calendar days to get it into the trust account. Fun stuff. This is the type of question we're going to be seeing, everybody. So let's dive in. Question 1, real question 1. The following items are by default included in the sale except A, ceiling fans, B, light fixtures, C, curtains, D, hot tub on the back patio, or E, surround sound mounted speakers. Everybody ready? No. Okay. I know, dang it, I didn't think of that. I don't actually know how I would have integrated it in Canva, but okay. Everybody ready? D, hot tub on the back patio is the correct answer. If you look through section 1 of the rep C, you'll find all those other things specifically listed in section 1.1. Ceiling fans, light fixtures, and bulbs, all window coverings, including curtains, draperies, rods, windows, or window blinds, and all wall and ceiling mounted speakers. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, if Kahoot was still free, we'd be using Kahoot, and you wouldn't be able to do that. That's what I'm told. So, yes, this is also an ethics test for all of you. The most important thing is that we're learning more about the rep C and some maybe more obscure things that are in here. That's what really matters, guys. But yes, I am counting on your honesty as well. Question 2, true or false? If the buyer wrote in their offer that they would be coming in with 50% cash down, but mid-transaction they decide they only want to put down 10%, an addendum is necessary because of the material difference between those two amounts. So an addendum is necessary, true or false. Okay, everyone get your answers in the next like 3 seconds. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Yes! Woohoo! Okay. Anyone need more time on this one? That was awesome. It is false. It is false, and it is false because of this specific language in section 2. Any amounts shown in 2.1c and 2.1e, C and E, new loan, purchase price. How loud is it playing for you guys? Yeah, it was great down here. Okay. So anyway, if you're not adding a contingency, yes. But if you want a financing contingency where you didn't have one before, then like absolutely, yeah. But yeah, like C and E, new loan and cash amount can be changed in buyer's discretion, buyer and lender's discretion. These numbers do not matter at all. Don't tell your sellers that they actually matter, please, because they do not. Question 3. Which of the following are required for settlement to occur? A. Buyer and seller have signed their respective documents. B. Down payment money has been delivered. C. The new loan funds have been delivered. D. All of the above. Or E. A and B, but not C. So again, this is for settlements to occur. This is open book. Pull up the reps if you have it. Buyer and seller have signed is A. B is down payment money has been delivered. C is the new loan funds. The loan has funded is C. So then we've got all of the above. Then we've got A and B, but not the loan funding. I miss the music now. Bummer.
There's a lot of
Okay.
other factors.
I'm going to pull up the music on YouTube.
The concept here is that everything that's in that buyer's control. It is the buyer can't control the lender.
So everyone got their answers in? Okay, Mello's got us covered on the music. The answer is E, A and B, but not C. So when we talk about closing, right, what are the two words we always hear or use? Fund and record. Those are the two closing words that do matter per the terms of the REPC. Closing means settlement has been complete. So we start with settlement, right? So settlement shall occur only when all of the following: A, buyer and seller have signed and delivered to each other their documents, and B, any money is required to be paid by buyer or seller under these documents, except for the proceeds of any new loan, have been delivered. So then closing is, again, funding of the loan and recording with the county. Right. Buyer and seller have done what they need to do. We've got an extra 4 calendar days after settlement for the third parties, namely the lender and the county, to do their job and get this closed. So if you're coming up on like a holiday, you may want to watch that and say, okay, our signing's on a Friday. We've got Saturday, Sunday, a holiday Monday. Are we going to close within 4 calendar days of settlement? Because just because you sign a settlement, closing may not occur per the contract within 4 calendar days.
When it doesn't happen.
Yeah, when it doesn't happen, you're like, oh shoot, right? Right. And watch it though, because again, if you don't modify it, you only have 4 calendar days to get from settlement to closing. Question 4, another true or false. Here's the statement. If there is no HOA, there is no need to specify who pays any special assessments in section 4.2. Checking other and writing NA is acceptable. True or false if there's no HOA? I did recommend you bring up the rep sheet. That's okay. Yeah, I gave you the section on this one, 4.2. If there's no HOA, checking other and writing NA is acceptable. Oh man. Shh, Jen, shh. No sharing answers. Shh. All right, I'm gonna give you guys like 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. The answer is false. It is not okay. It is not okay to check N or to check other and write NA. Why is this not okay? It's because section 4.2 doesn't just apply to HOAs. Okay? If it said HOA specifically, you might be okay. But we only read HOA, but it's any assessments for capital improvements as approved by the HOA or as assessed by a municipality or special improvement district. So if the city had a major sidewalk catastrophe in the neighborhood that the home's selling in, and the city said, we need to redo these sidewalks, who's going to pay for it? The city may levy a special assessment against all the homeowners in that subdivision. I remember this from real estate school, actually. It's one of the few things I retained from that. But so I thought that's weird. But there are other entities that could levy a special assessment. So again, that's why even when there's no HOA, you gotta pay attention to this language because it's probably very, very rare. I've never seen a special assessment come from anything but an HOA, but it can, and the Rep C allows for it. Question 5. Jake, if you're here and you want to participate, there is a QR code at the bottom. You may need to come closer to see it, though. I don't know. Okay. Buyer must honor which of the following? A, existing long-term lease agreements. B, existing... What's going on? Okay. B, existing future short-term rental bookings. C, existing property management agreements. All of the above, or A and C, but not B. Yes, we're trying to stump the agents here. Yeah, everyone just breathe. It's okay.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Wonder what section
Section 6.1.
Okay, Jen's helping everybody here. Jen was that kid in class who had all the right answers and shared them with her neighbors. Talks too much. All right, everyone got their answers in. A few more seconds. Which of these must buyer honor? Buyer must honor which of these? Okay. Yeah, I know. Just doing a Google form, you guys can totally just change these after we reveal the right answer, can't you? But oh yeah, thank you. Okay, there's a makeup at the end. Yeah, there's a mulligan. One mulligan. Okay. Buyer must honor which of the following? All of the above. Okay. Any existing rental or property management agreement, they must honor the terms of that agreement. That does include future nightly rentals, right? That occur after closing. They can't just cancel on those people that have booked the property already. Buyer must honor those things. That's the one that people sometimes get stumped on. Question 6.
I have a quick question on, you have a property manager, the number, that, you just need to have something written in writing.
Yeah.
Right?
An agreement can certainly be terminated. Yeah, but you could be like, hey, we don't want to keep using you as the property manager. And they could be like, well, you have to through the terms of the lease, and you have to honor that. And that's typically what you'll see, in my experience at least, is that if the property manager's been managing it, they're going to keep their property management agreement through the lease that they set up, which they're entitled to do, right? So, huh? I mean, it's an agreement between the owner and the other company, but that the owner's interest in that agreement is assigned to the new buyer. Basically, is I think contract law wise how that technically works when you sell. Question 6. This hopefully is an easy one, but may not be. For property constructed prior to blank, seller is required to provide a lead-based paint disclosure no later than the seller disclosure deadline. Is it 1978, 1988, 1998, or 1999? Lead-based paint disclosure is required for properties constructed prior to which year?
Yeah, Brent wrote a song about this.
I was thinking that one.
That totally popped into my
Yeah.
head.
Nice.
Party like it's.
So.
Yeah. Dang it. All right, anyone need more time on this one? All right, 1978. 1978 is the answer. Prior to 1978 is the specific language built prior to. So if you're built in 1978, technically this language says you don't need it, but I would do it anyway because you never know how long it took people to phase out their lead paint at that time. But anyway, if you ever forget what the date is, it's right there in section 7 of the Rep C. Question 7. A seller has a personal hatred towards home inspectors and doesn't want to let them into the home. Jake? Seller may do all of the following except A, be at the property while the inspector is there. B, lock certain doors where valuables are hidden to prevent inspector access. Or C, insist that buyer pay for any damage an inspector causes. Which one of those 3 things can a seller not do? A, B, or C? Which one can they not do is the question. Oh, we got Jeopardy music again. All right.
Brenda rips that. Never. This is.
And we're going to pull up a Repsy section in just a minute, Brian.
Well, no, I've got Ripsy up right here.
You're not going to find the word, like, you're not going to find my language in the Repsy, but you're going to find language in the Repsy that's going to govern and forbid one of these things. So which thing can a seller not do? Can they not be at the property while the inspector is there? Can they not lock certain doors in the home where valuables are hidden to prevent inspector access? Or can they not insist that buyer pay for any damage an inspector causes? Which one can a seller not do? Okay. Okay, we're gonna wait till the end of this timer song. Anyone need more time? Who needs more time? Okay, here's the answer. A seller may not lock certain doors where valuables are hidden to prevent inspector access. Okay, a seller cannot cut off parts of the home for the home inspector. Why? Because seller agrees to cooperate with buyer's due diligence. Buyer does agree to pay for any damage to the property resulting from inspections or tests from due diligence. So that was not correct because of that language. Buyer already agrees to pay for any damage caused by buyer's inspectors, but seller explicitly agrees to cooperate with buyer's due diligence. So tell your sellers not to lock their doors for the home inspector, but they can be there. That's fine. Inspectors don't like it, but they can be there. It's their house, right? And yeah, they can absolutely require the buyer to pay for any damages. Question 8. A REPSI contains both an appraisal condition and a financing condition. The property appraises at the purchase price. Buyer attempts to cancel the REPSI after the due diligence deadline, but prior to the financing and appraisal deadline. But seller objects, claiming that since the property appraised, buyer must perform their obligations under the REPSI. Can the buyer cancel the contract? A, yes, per the financing condition. B, yes, per the appraisal condition. C, no, buyer may not cancel the REPSI per their conditions and must perform or lose their earnest money. Think back to 1 or 2 broker moments ago when we were talking about conditions. So if the property appraises, can buyers still cancel the REPSI per either the financing or appraisal condition? I'm not verifying that or not until we go to the next slide, Jesse. All right. Anyone need more time? More time on this one. Answers coming. All right. Yes, per the financing condition, they may still cancel the contract. Now, they could not cancel if they had no financing condition and they only had an appraisal condition. If it was a cash deal but the cash buyer still wanted the appraisal, wouldn't want to buy it if it didn't appraise. If they had an appraisal condition only, this would be a no. The appraisal condition requires that it doesn't appraise for you to have a right to cancel. You have to have the appraisal report that says it did not appraise for your appraisal condition. But the financing condition is much more lenient. All you have to say is buyer is not satisfied with the terms and conditions of the loan, and in buyer's sole discretion, that's okay, and it's a reason to cancel. It's very loosey-goosey, even though it's not as all-encompassing as due diligence, but it doesn't say, again, and this is a reminder, financing condition, those terms and conditions don't have to change for you to not be satisfied with them in buyer's sole discretion, right? So yes, even if it appraises, even if they qualify for the loan, nothing changed from day one. Interest rates went down, not up since you went under contract. Buyer can still cancel and say they are not satisfied with the terms and conditions of the loan. Question 9. Before settlement, the seller damages a water line while moving the washing machine out and causes substantial cosmetic damage in the laundry room. Buyer notices the damage on the final walkthrough and demands it be repaired. The inspection shows the damage was not pre-existing. Which of the following is true? I'm so happy we have home warranty here today. Because A, seller is not obligated to fix the damage because, per section 10.2a, buyer is purchasing the property in as-is condition without warranties of any kind. B, because the damage didn't show on the inspection report, seller will not have to repair the damage since the home warranty will cover it. C, seller only has to repair the leak, not the cosmetic damage. D, seller must repair all damage at seller's expense. I will neither confirm nor deny until the next slide is up. Does anyone need more time? Jesse has a final answer. All right, what is it? The answer is D. Yes, seller must repair all damage at seller's expense. We have a few things to point to here. So, like, yeah, buyer is purchasing the property in as is condition, right? Sure. Seller agrees too. Jesse said it. Deliver the property to buyer in substantially the same general condition as it was on the date of acceptance. We dealt with that, right, earlier this year. Like, what was it? It was the grass, right? Like, tell your sellers, don't kill your grass after acceptance. Don't stop watering to save yourself 2 cents on water between now and closing and let your grass die, right? So yes, you must deliver the property in substantially the same condition as it was on the date of acceptance, ordinary wear and tear accepted, which this would not be. And E, specifically, repair any seller or tenant moving related damage to the property at seller's expense. And the way I worded my question, it would fall in that category as well. Question 10. A Repsy included the refrigerator in the sale, but upon taking possession, buyer realizes that the seller took it with them. Buyer did not conduct a final walkthrough prior to settlement. Seller removed the refrigerator early on in the transaction prior to when a final walkthrough could have been scheduled, and feels that because buyer never mentioned it, then buyer waived their right to the refrigerator. Does seller owe buyer the refrigerator? Yes or no? I'm guessing this was an easy one for you. Yes, seller owes buyer the refrigerator. Okay. And specifically, we're looking at section 11, the failure to conduct a walkthrough inspection or to claim that an item is not as represented shall not constitute a waiver by buyer of the right to receive that item. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you didn't do a final walkthrough. There's no requirement to do a final walkthrough. You still get what the contract says you get, right? Obviously.
And you don't.
You get what you get, and you throw a fit if the seller took the refrigerator. Well, question 11. After the date of acceptance, seller may continue to accept nightly rental bookings, A, that occur only prior to the closing, B, that book prior to the seller disclosure deadline, C, that occur after closing so as not to interfere with due diligence and to increase rental income for buyer after closing, or D, none of the above. When can a seller continue to accept nightly rental bookings? It's a great question. We're going by the basic terms of the Repsy here. And yes, this is absolutely in the Repsy, Brian. Brian's using his mulligan.
After the date of acceptance, but you don't mention acceptance you mention.
There's a none of the above, right? If you don't think any of my answers are good.
It's none of the above. You wouldn't have.
Seller-
Above.
Seller may continue to accept nightly rental bookings when? This is after you're under contract. After the date of acceptance.
Oh.
So you're under contract on a nightly rental. When does seller have to cut off new bookings? That's the real question here, right? So can seller accept new bookings that occur prior to closing, that book prior to the seller disclosure deadline, or that occur after closing only so as not to interfere with due diligence?
I'm not looking it up. I think by doing that, I think it's pretty.
Okay, Brian thinks he can read me like a book. Like a book. Anyone need more time on this one? Okay. So again, you're under contract on a nightly rental. Seller may continue to accept nightly rental bookings. B, that book prior to the seller disclosure deadline. And full disclosure, everybody, I stumped myself when I wrote this question because I went and I looked it up and realized that the answer I was going to put was false. So I actually stumped myself with this one. The answer is found in 12.5 short-term rental bookings. Seller may not, after the seller disclosure deadline, continue to accept short-term rental bookings. After the seller disclosure deadline, you may not accept anymore. So you think with this one, I was like, why is that? Because you think like, okay, we've accepted it. We can't make any because you've also got right like long-term lease. You can't make any changes to any of your lease agreements after acceptance is what we're trained to think. Short-term rental bookings, though, I mean, imagine if you have a short-term rental, right? And you're the seller, and the REPC says, as of acceptance, you can't accept any new bookings. How are you going to turn that off immediately to be in perfect compliance with that? It's probably impossible. So they had to put some date and some time to that to require the bookings be shut off. And what the REPC does by default is the seller disclosure deadline is the day the seller must cut off all new bookings. So, like I said, I actually stumped myself when I wrote this question. So I thought it'd be a great one to focus on because I did not even know this prior to doing this quiz for you. So now I know that if all of you come up and say I got 100%, you're liars. Unless you get them, unless you only miss one, which is okay. Well, good. Okay.
Also, you just have an addendum that says you can keep booking.
Well, yeah, but I'm not talking about addenda. You can write anything you want to an addendum. A buyer and seller can agree to anything, right? But what is the REPC default? Let's say you didn't think like to not cut off your nightly rental bookings. I mean, technically you're in breach of contract, right? If you violate your terms. This actually would fall into So I would argue that yes, you are in default of your contract if you violate what you promised to do in your contract. It's a small thing, and I don't think it would kill a deal, but it could cause problems. So, question 12. Speaking of default, seller at the last minute decides not to sign their closing docs and wants to keep the property. Buyer decides to accept liquidated damages rather than try to sue and force the seller to perform. The earnest money deposit was $10,000. What should the buyer receive? A, just the $10,000 earnest money back. B, $10,000 earnest money back plus reimbursement for all expenses in conducting due diligence. Or C, $10,000 earnest money back plus another $10,000 from the seller. Buyer's choosing liquidated damages. Buyer chooses to accept liquidated damages. They're not going to turn around and sue the seller, right? They're not going to exercise their option to sue the seller to perform. They're choosing to accept liquidated damages. So the question is, what is liquidated damages for the buyer? A, earnest money. B, earnest money plus expenses. Or C, $10,000 earnest money plus another $10,000 from the seller. What is liquidated damages for the buyer?
I thought this was different right here. I was excited to see what you said.
Okay, cool.
I thought there were three options. One is the earnest money, one is liquidated damages, one's sued to force to sell.
We'll see, won't we? Anyone need more time on this one? Okay, Brian's looking. Look in the REPC, guys. It's in the REPC. It is explicitly stated in the REPC what the correct answer is. And remember, this is the seller who decided not to sell. Sorry, what? You're like, oh, the answer is.
What section is possession?
Yeah. Okay. Seller's canceling at the last minute. Buyer chooses to accept liquidated damages. What happens? What does buyer get? 10,000 earnest money back plus another 10,000 from the seller. So section 16.2, it totally depends on what your earnest money amount is. So this is buyer's first option, right? Buyer may cancel the rep C, and in addition to the return of earnest money, if applicable, buyer may elect to accept from seller as liquidated damages a sum equal to the earnest money deposit if applicable. So yeah, so if buyer defaults, Jake's exactly right. If buyer defaults, then seller gets to keep the earnest money. That's their remedy. But if seller defaults, buyer getting buyer's own money back isn't really damages, isn't really recovering anything from the seller. So seller's obligated to come up with whatever that earnest money amount is. Seller's got to come out and pay that out of pocket as damages to the buyer. So when you're having an earnest money discussion and your buyer's like, I don't know, what should I put as earnest money? Should I do like $200? Like, well, keep in mind that if the seller screws you over here, if the seller defaults on the contract, whatever your earnest money amount is not just on the table for you, it's on the table for the seller as well in return. So keep that in mind when you're having earnest money discussions with your clients. That's just another reason, because people say, what's earnest money for, right? What do we need earnest money for? Well, this is one thing where it's not just the buyer anteing up. By accepting the offer of, say, 10,000 earnest money, the seller is also saying, well, I'm hypothetically putting 10,000 on the table as well if I default. Okay, so any questions on that? Any other questions on that? So it's super, super interesting. This is our final question before the makeup. So question 13. 7 days prior to closing, a fire destroys a portion of the property. The purchase price is $500,000 and the estimated repairs are $60,000. Per the terms of the REPC, is the seller required to make the repairs and sell the property? Yes or no?
And sell the property.
Is the seller required to make the repairs and honor the contract, basically? Does seller still have to make the repairs and sell the property in this specific situation? I hear some whisperings that some of you are in the correct contract section, so good job. All right, everyone got their answers in? Get those answers in. Is the seller required to sell and make the repairs for $60,000? The answer is no, the seller is not. And that is section 20.2. If prior to closing, any part of the property is damaged or destroyed, right, by an act of God, basically, the risk of such loss shall be borne by seller. However, if the cost of repairing such loss or damage would exceed 10% of the purchase price, either seller or buyer may elect to cancel the REPC by providing written notice to the other party. And in that event, no matter who cancels, buyer gets the earnest money back. But yeah, because it was $60,000, the seller is not required to make that repair and continue on in the contract. If it was $49,000, yes, the seller would have to make those repairs and still sell the property because it didn't exceed 10% of the purchase price. Please.
Where this is kind of like an act of God type thing, and if it's more than the 10%, and they cancel, they get their earnest money back. It's just the earnest money.
Correct. That's at that point it's not default, right? It's not default because it's built into the contract. So we've accounted for major risk or damage that no one could control in section 20 of the contract. And at that point, it's just like, say this happened, right? At that point, it's just like buyer and seller just like, well, the house is half gone, so let's just shake hands, part ways, and and we'll just pretend like this deal never happened. Is basically what it says here. We're gonna just pretend like the deal never happened. All right. Does anyone have 100% so far? Woo! Okay, this is your makeup if you've missed one. True or false? It is possible to accept an offer after the acceptance deadline. Can you check accept after your acceptance deadline?
Can you check that?
Can you accept an offer after the acceptance deadline? True, yes, false, no.
Yes.
Scott says false.
They're
Well,
still teaching us on this.
False, 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 false. That is the answer to your makeup question, everybody. I hope this was so easy for everyone to get because we've talked about it multiple times. You may not hit accept on an offer after the acceptance deadline. It is not possible, according to contract law, to accept after the deadline. Can you save the offer is a different question. Yes, you can proceed with a negotiation. Yes, you can counter, but you cannot accept the offer after the acceptance deadline. If you hit accept after the deadline, you accept a null and void offer is what the language says. If you hit accept and then do an addendum, you're doing an addendum to a dead contract. Okay, you have to counter if you want to save the deal. False, 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 false.
How do you rebut? What's the appropriate?
Counter.
So you do a counter offer and you say what?
Nothing. Anything you want to counter.
So after the deadline, you don't have to extend the deadline?
No, you never have to extend the deadline. The only, legally speaking, a counter offer is a presentation of an entirely new offer to the other side. And the only acceptance deadline that matters on your counter offer is the acceptance deadline on your counter addendum.
You say all previous terms accepted,
Yeah,
and then you.
right.
And the next time a lender wants me to correct that, you know, tell them.
Call my broker. He's going to yell at you. Well, then they're full of it. Yeah, if you hit accept, then there's a problem. Because if you hit accept after the acceptance deadline, it's impossible. Legally speaking, contractually speaking, it's impossible to hit accept after the acceptance deadline. It is not possible. So even if you come back with an addendum, it is not enforceable if you hit accept after an acceptance deadline, because you can't amend a dead contract. You can't amend a contract that doesn't exist. Now, if everyone acts like the contract exists and you get to the closing table and sell the property, great. Best practice, do not hit accept after the acceptance deadline because you're probably making your whole contract unenforceable. And that's the reason why it's super important that if you've passed a deadline, just hit counter. If you're sending an addendum that is just a clerical addendum, don't even put a date. I've been through that with you before. If you don't want it to risk expiring, just don't put a date, right? Just mark who needs to accept it and let them sign it whenever they want, as long as it's before closing. That is the end of our quiz. No, one more question.
So if you've got a seller that rejects somebody that wanted to do a final walkthrough, seller says you've already had your appraisal, you've done your due diligence, you can't come through the home again until after you buy it. Is the buyer able to do a walkthrough for contract?
Yes. Did we have that section in here? I don't know if we did. Let's see. We did talk about it. Okay, here we go. So no earlier than 7 days prior to settlement, and upon reasonable notice and at reasonable time, buyer may conduct a final pre-settlement walkthrough. There it is. Buyer has a contractual right to conduct it no sooner than 7 days prior to settlement, as long as they give reasonable notice and it's at a reasonable time.
So this, my client, the seller, like they've already been through the house several times. I'm not gonna let them come through again, like, well, we talked about it. She's like, well, they've already been through 3 times. So when you call it enough is enough, that's the problem we're having.
If it was sooner than 7 days prior to the settlement, if it was sooner than that, then it doesn't count as a final walkthrough, and buyer retains the right to do a final walkthrough within that 7 day period. Because think of it from the buyer's perspective, right? And I've had this happen in a deal I did with Aurora many years ago, where my seller, a relative of my seller, went and took all the ceiling fans out of the house because they felt they were entitled to it. And they took out these super nice fans and put up some real crappy ones. So yeah, buyer has a right to do it right before closing within that 7-day period. Because you just, from the buyer's perspective, you never know what a seller is going to do.
So on that same thing, does the seller have the right to say, no, you can't come through before this 7 days and just lock them out of the?
If it's, so seller agrees to cooperate with buyer's due diligence. Due diligence is passed.
But due diligence could be multiple inspections, multiple times.
Sure.
It couldn't limit that.
Seller must cooperate with due diligence. But due diligence is done. Buyer doesn't have any explicit contractual right to enter the home after that until your final walkthrough 7 days prior. So yeah, I mean, they can if the seller's cool with it, but yeah, explicit contractual rights is due diligence and then final walkthrough. Okay. So Aurora's trying to trick us all. Okay, what do you got?
And they figure it out and then they put it back to you right after.
No, yeah, we have a specific addendum for that. The reinstatement addendum, which you would then use. But regarding the transaction you're talking about, Aurora, where you had an addendum that was rejected and then the deal was canceled and then the deal was reinstated, you don't include rejected addenda in your contracts. They're not part of your contract. They failed to enter your contract because they were rejected. So don't include those in your file if it was rejected. Don't include it in your addendum count, right? Right, but then it would have expired, right? Hypothetically, it would have expired if you, assuming you put a date. But if you didn't put a date, it's when the contract died. If it goes unresponded, it's not part of the deal, right? If buyer and seller have not accepted it, they haven't signed it, it's not part of the rep. Address it meaning what? No. You're not reinstating an addendum that never was agreed upon, right? You can't, Right. So yeah, right. Like in this case, yeah, there was an addendum 6 that somebody presented. Addendum 6 is presented saying we're gonna do this and this and this. Other side says, nah, we're just gonna cancel the contract instead. Never signs addendum number 6. So then when you reinstate with your reinstatement addendum, that one should be number 6 because the other one, as far as the contract is concerned, never happened. An addendum that was not accepted tried to happen, but never happened. That's how you can think of it.
So same similar scenario, addendum 6, they say we're gonna do all these things and the people just reject it. It still continues on through 5 or that ends the contract.
No, yeah, no, it would not end your contract, right? A rejected addendum is only a rejection of that addendum, can't kill your contract unless you use something like the contingent cancellation addendum. I think that's what it's called, right? Where your addendum actually says a rejection of this addendum, then this serves as written notice that we're canceling, unless it's something like that. But yeah, normal addendum, you say we want a price reduction, they say heck no. Your original contract still stands.
5, and then if you did another one, it would be a new number 6.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, they reject your number 6 entirely. You're like, okay, well, how about let me write a new number 6 and see if you like this one. Right. Is how that would work.
It's very specific.
Yeah, on that addendum.
I can't remember what it is, but it's very specific.
Yeah, it's prior to due diligence, and that addendum basically says do this and this and this, or this is our written notice of cancellation. Because all that's required to cancel is written notice. You don't need the buyer's notice of cancellation to cancel, right? So that addendum can serve as written notice. Anyway, who wants to come up and get a prize? Everybody? Come.
Talk about earnest money. This is from a living standpoint.
think it gets vaporized, and they don't realize it goes into the lung. And you'd be really surprised how many, and so when you're asking for earnest money, they don't, they're like hesitant to give you a lot of money because they think it's gonna get vaporized. So
Yeah.
they don't realize that it's going towards the loan. So I'm just telling you, from a lender standpoint, you'd be absolutely shocked at how many people don't know where that money goes. They think it just gets,
Yeah.
they think it goes to you, honestly, is the feedback I get.
Hmm.
I just gave my realtor like $4 grand, okay?
Yeah.
You didn't do this. So that's just my perspective from, on the living side, something to keep in mind when you talk about earnest money. Just maybe take a second and explain to them that is part of the loan.
Love it. Okay, Roland, come spin the wheel or get a car wash. Oh, here's what I say. I say spin the wheel, and if you don't like what you get, you can get a car wash instead. That
That was a good spin.
was a great spin.
Oh.
Or a car wash. Heck yeah. Jen? Okay. This is Mello's spin, okay?
From Taylor.
Oh man.
Then
A pen. Mello gets a pen.
yes. Where's Taylor?
What is it?
It's a compliment from Taylor.
Woo! All right. Anybody else get 13 points?
That announcement sporting right now, they're up 0.02 points, but
What was the, I was gonna,
I've been here, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm be shocked if anything will. I mean, we're 99% of it was gonna be a quarter.
Yeah, rates are what, 6.15 or something? Yeah. Oh. Mortgage News Daily told me 6.13 yesterday. Okay. Sweet.
0.02.
Sweet. Okay, thank you guys. We didn't miss anybody. We're good on the wheel.
thank you.
Okay, break.